And then the most amazing thing happened, and I have to talk about my dear wife and how we met. So I was still in the Air Force when Mum saw me first, and I came home one weekend in uniform from Salisbury. If I was in uniform, it meant I had either got a flip or flight down to Exeter. One of the planes from Old Sarum, rickety old things, went to RF or Yeovilton or Exeter. And in a uniform, in those days, you could just put your thumb up on the side of the road, something illegal almost today, and get a lift. And I sometimes, in uniform, hitched home. I must have done that because I was playing the organ apparently that morning. And my wife of now apparently said to someone, "Who is that young man playing the organ in uniform?" "Oh, yeah, Bob Huckle," and so on. After I was demobbed and still on the railway, definitely still on the railway at Axminster. I then was playing the organ sometimes, but certainly back in the church at Lyme. And I saw this elegant, well-dressed, tall, model-like young woman as she was then, high heel shoes and cracking legs as it were, and she used to come with this little boy and her mother every Sunday, and all I would have done would have said, "Good morning, how are you?" or something like that. Nothing more, because I looked at her, admired what I saw, shall I say, but it never for once would dawn on me that I would enter into any form of relationship with her. Never would. On the other hand, I had no girlfriend, really. I knew plenty of girls from my youth club days. In the youth club in Lyme, when I was 15, I became secretary of the youth club. Loved the youth club. Used to have great times there. But that had fizzled, I think. Yeah, that had fizzled by the time I got demobbed, I think. Anyway, one evening I was on duty at Axminster Station in the winter. It was relatively quiet. I had to make a contact with some telephone number, and I picked the phone up, and Lyme Regis was the operating place. You didn't have dials in those days. Just pick the phone up and ask for a number. And I said, "I'm trying to get out of this," and I don't know, but Mum must have recognised my voice, I think. How she knew, I don't know. And she said, "How are you?" "I'm all right, thanks, how are you?" She said, "You don't know who you're talking to, do you?" I said, "No, not at all." "Oh, well, you spoke to me on Sunday morning." And there began a conversation. And when we were each on late turn, these conversations grew, actually. And I found this fascinating. And then I think I met her in town one morning when I was on a late turn. And, "Oh, well, fancy a coffee," something like this. And we had coffee. And I was getting smitten with this person. And then we met one evening, I think, and went for a walk somewhere. She lived down Sherburn Lane. My Aunt Emily and Uncle Ned and Uncle Jack, John the baker, Master Baker of Lyme Regis, also, it was his house actually, and Auntie Emily looked after him all his life. Not all his life, but they lived together. And I started meeting Mum, that's what I call her now. And Auntie Emily got hold of this, and she choked me off pretty snappy. A woman of old-fashioned standard, shall I say, not old-fashioned standards, but idea. You see, there was an age difference here, and there was a widow with a child. What are you doing with her, sort of thing, you know? But the relationship grew without any doubt, and I fell in love. And for some strange, weird reason, Mum fell in love with me too. And then my father said to me one evening, because Ruth was still at home, she hadn't left Lyme, I understand, or people are saying something like this, that you're walking out with Mrs. Gale. And I said, yes, Dad, I am. And is this serious? He said. And I said, yes, I believe it is. And he didn't bat an eyelid, because my mother had been older than him, actually. And he gave it his blessing, in a sense, and invited her home. And she came home. I think Julian, mother, came home on her own sometime. You must remember, Mum's background was rather different than mine, and she had come through what one can only describe as hell in recent years. Coming to Lyme was the sort of light on a horizon that she hoped was there, I think, because having lost her husband and then her father going off the rails, a wealthy man who'd frittered all the money away, and Mum, with her mum, was virtually left on the street and all but penniless. Here was I going out with a widow, with a child, and a dependent mother, because Nan had no income whatever. I never thought of that. You know, when you're in love, you don't write a log book of, you know, what the assets are, things like that. You fall in love and you fall in love. And so it grew, and we began to sit with each other in church, and the whole thing became accepted. I can remember on a Sunday afternoon, I would walk along the parade with her on a lovely Sunday afternoon, with Jay at our side, and people coming towards us, locals saying, "God, here comes Bob Huckle with his woman, you know, he's with his widow woman." And that's how it was. But it didn't matter in any way. And we became engaged. I remember, talking of Jay, I've just mentioned Jay, you have to remember that Jay had been to I don't know how many schools, because not only his father being killed when he was a baby, but that the upheaval of the family meant moving here and there and different schools, and poor lad had a rough childhood in that respect, but deeply loved by his mother and his grandmother, and by his grandfather actually, who he never saw hardly. Leslie, that's Mum's first husband's parents, came to Lyme one Sunday. Below me, I didn't bump into them when they were out for a walk, and because Jay said to them, "Oh, here comes Mum's boyfriend," which was rather embarrassing, really, because they weren't the sort of people, you know, who would be particularly enamoured with this, what was going on, I don't think. And anyway, stopped, said hello, and then they came again one day, and I had a chat with them. I think I wrote to them and told them that I had no intention ever of becoming Julian's father or taking his father's place. That, you know, whatever relationship developed, I hope would be a happy one. So we got engaged and we got married on April Fool's Day, 1955 in Lyme Regis Baptist Church. It was a wonderful day, a lovely spring day, a wonderful service conducted by Bill Welsh, who was our minister, who hadn't been there too long, about a year or so, and who we formed a very strong friendship. And they were relatively newly married, and Mum and I went to Cheltenham for our honeymoon. I almost forgot to say that Adrian was best man at our wedding. My sister was bridesmaid. Adrian from Canmore in Cornwall. So that relationship was continuing.